cooling. It's a nice day. I chilled, exercised. All right, so the topic is what's wrong with being white. It's it's apparent that I am not a white person. And the reason why I'm saying this is because the the culture. Oh, oh damn, youngins saying all kind of stuff. So I'm saying that because the the culture. Okay, the white culture. The okay. So the dominant race in America is white. The dominant race on the planet financially, I almost want to say, Asian, but it's white. It's white. Okay, so in order to be racist, you have to be dominant in some way where you control money. You control a person's money. You know what I'm saying? This is why when somebody says a black person's racist, it's like a black person is not controlling white people's money on a whole. It's just not happening. They're not. Uh, so when you look at who's in a position of power, you look at white people in a position of power. But you're finding that a lot of white people, even in those in a position of power, are gravitating towards the black culture, and they're, even though some of them are reluctant, but what they're finding out is the black culture is taking over their culture in a few different ways. Now, one of those ways is the white women. Let's just get it straight. Now, I'm not saying that to be facetious either. Statistically, white women are gravitating towards black men in a way that is I wonder what that was. Gravitating towards white men in a way that is disrupting the ability for white people to procreate in mass like they used to. All right, so let's get some facts out of the way. It's a fact that in some European countries, like Germany, they have asked the couples to have children, and they're paying couples to have children. Fact: white male babies are the most sought after on the black market. These are all facts. Um, Now, when we start, okay, even Benjamin Franklin was talking about how the white population will diminish because of there's so many other colors out there, namely, black people in a large amount. Now, when you start looking at what's wrong with being white, you start looking at the different variations of white. You start looking at the people who says, I'm white, but, you have that in there. Nonetheless, you're looking right at a white person, but they're going, I'm white, but. So some of them will say, I'm white, but I'm Jewish. It's like, isn't Jewish a white person? It's just like, yeah, but, we're a particular type of white person. I'm white, but I'm Irish. I'm white, but I'm Yiddish. I'm white, but I'm, this, that, and the other. But the way we look at you is you're a white person. Now, that doesn't mean that we have something against you. It means that you're a white person in our eyes. That's it. That's all. You belong to the white culture, regardless of what continent you came from. You are a white person to us. Now you're finding out that white people, uh, even the reality of their genetics has been a threat to them way back since, Adolf was trying to take over. Now, of course, we're all familiar with most of the popular stories about Adolf, but also Adolf had a beef with Africans. And at one time, they enslaved Africans and, did a lot of dirt to them, and would, put them in jail systems and things like that and treat them horribly and, things along that line. And one reason why Adolf had a disliking towards Africans is because of the Senegalese men. The Senegalese men actually fought alongside of the Germans at one point, and I've said this before, the women found the Senegalese men very attractive. Now, this is a German women. Found the Senegalese men very attractive because they were tall. So, that and that was not just a story, that's very true. And when I was 19 years old, I lived in Germany. I was a soldier in Germany, and they all said the same thing. If you go to Germany, the women over there are going to, like you. So, boom, that's what I found out very quickly. German women love tall, dark skinned men. All right. So, when you have this dynamic of losing your women, losing the people who can carry your seed and make another child, when you have the constant diluting of your race, and it bothers you so much that you went to war and more, that you went to war over it, you try to destroy whole races. And even now that, we're still at war, that's why all these shootings are happening to us. Uh, uh, when the reality hits you that your race is diminishing, it causes a sense of panic. Now, the black race is only diminished because of war. Now, this is war against ourselves, and this is, slavery and things along that line. A lot of things have diminished the black population. But the thing about black people is they have a blessing and a curse on them. And the curse is written down in the book of Deuteronomy. The blessing was given to our forefathers that we will be as like the stars in the sky. The curse is that, we will have a 400-year curse on us, and, we'll be brought to a land by ships, and, we will be enslaved, and, by people who say, what's good is bad and what's bad is good, and, do all kind of terrible things to us. So that has happened, and we're almost at the end of that. We're pretty much at the end of that. But still, now here's the thing: the black culture or black people, our numbers, of course, is bouncing back quickly. That's why I'm saying all that, because our numbers have sprung back, right? When there's famine not killing us, when there's whole armies not killing us for our land, and when you have all these things that slavery has been abolished and things like, what's going on, Steve? When you have slavery has been abolished, and when you have when you have all these things that were killing us before is not killing us anymore, you're going to have not necessarily an overpopulation, but you're going to have a spring in the population. You're going to have a jump in the population. And when you look at the World Health Organization and the CDC and all that, and they start looking at their numbers, they're noticing that the very opposite is happening to them. So the population of white people in America is also going down. Now, for a lot of reasons, death is the biggest one. You're going to war and you're fighting on all fronts. Heart disease is one of the main ones, especially when it comes to men. cancer, or you can just throw diseases in there. And then, of course, you got drugs, this whole fentanyl thing, and people needing Narcan and all this other stuff. And of course, just other diseases, COVID-19, that's affecting everyone. But this is why it's such an alarm for white people, because they cannot replenish their numbers as fast as other races can, especially black people. They cannot do it. And there has always been a, even when we were in Egypt, there has always been a cry against the constant population of black people. This is why the Egyptians, you know, uh, put us in, slavery, because they found out that our numbers were growing too fast. So they attacked us and then boom, put us in slavery. And of course, we got out of slavery, so on and so forth. But it has always been a thing. And the reason why the Asians are in Africa is to take our gold and to use our people, because they're like, you guys have a lot of people and a lot of land. So we want to buy your land off from under you and build infrastructure. Well, that's a no-brainer. A lot of Africa is still fighting against each other because of the things that the Dutch told them, the lies that uh, Leopold and them, killed 15 million Africans. It's just terrible what has happened to just the continent of Africa and how it's been raped and pillaged. But now that all that raping and pillaging is widespread, and all that conquering is not widespread anymore, and you're getting a lot of these people out of these countries and out of the continent of Africa. A lot of these countries are taking their country back and are starting to flourish. And you're having a boom in the population of black people. Now, as soon as the black people are able to stabilize economically in the whole of Africa, you're going to see a power surge also in Africa. Now, at one time, Africa was united under, I forgot what his name was, but he was a Nigerian. Okay? So, it is highly, highly possible that that could happen again. You know, I'm not from Africa. I'm not African. Saying that is going to bother some people who are African. They'll never be, whatever with another country. But you're not listening to what I'm saying. It doesn't have to be in our time, but it's highly, highly, highly possible that Africa will again become a powerful continent. You understand? Africa was a powerful continent at one time, and people came to conquer Africa. Uh, African kings, and at one time the richest man lived there, Mensa Musa, and so on and so forth. So you had plenty of African rulers who were in positions of power until 1449, where pretty much they started being conquered and taken over. All right, so and that's pretty much where you had, Alexander the Greek was pretty much taking over armies and so on and so forth. And then his sons, who were all just a bunch of crazies, were trying to do the same thing he did. And this is why you have a lot of places in Africa and Europe, in Europe, called Alexandria. It's because of Alexander the Great, or the Greek. So what's wrong with being white? White people are victims of their own success. When you fight wars, okay, so divide and conquer. When you divide and when you go into another country and you invade, right? You take over that country. Next thing you know, the Africans are speaking English and they're speaking French. The dominant language in Africa is English. Okay, let's get this correct. So when you have this dynamic, because they were there, they raped and pillaged and did everything they could over there. When you have this dynamic, you're just like, okay, white people were here. They established, they conquered, they did whatever they were going to do here. You're like, all right, but there's bodies that you had to do. You had to use that. There's white people who died in order to set up these lands, these borders, and take over these countries. It wasn't just the Africans who died. There was a lot of white people who died. So when you realize that we cannot replenish our numbers the way that other races can, it's you find that out almost too late. You find it out almost too late, and you're just like, well, wait a minute. We need to start having more babies because now that we can look at the world and we have a world view, we can take pretty much a world count to see how many people are on the planet. You start looking at where you are on the planet, and then you start looking at how many babies are born in your race and how many babies are born in your competitor's race. You know what I'm saying? You realize real quick that you guys, you won the battle, but you won the battle, but you're losing the war, and it's by your own greed, and it's your fault. Your culture is being snuffed out, and you can march up and down the streets with a flag and all that other stuff that you want to do. It's not going to matter. Our culture was hijacked in so many ways. It's just, I mean, ridiculous. But here in America, in the 90s, our music was hijacked. There's no need for me to go over it again, but when our music was hijacked, the people who control, you know, music thought it was a good idea to put out NWA, put out trashy music that makes, black people want to go ahead and kill themselves. And they did that, and they were very, very successful. They were killing each other over colors. And if you notice today, that kind of music is still out. Drill music is a prime example of that. It's this music that they let play over the airwaves because they know that somebody's going to die. When you look at the top people in music right now, the music is not edifying black people. It's tearing them down. WAP. This is a horrible song. It's a horrible song. Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion are at the top of the charts, putting out horrible music. And I like Cardi B. I like her as a personality. But her music is horrible. Except I Like It Like That. That's a good song. But her hits are horrible, and they edify women being single. They don't edify women being married. Because when you want to talk about being married and bringing up, the family and being together, that music was put on the back burner. Self destruction, all that music to keep black people together has been put on the back burner because we don't control the airwaves. I'm saying all that to say this. When we were allowed to use the internet, the power that A&Rs had and, RCA and, well, not RCA, but, well, RCA too, but Sony and all these other big companies, the power that they had diminished little by little by little. Black people didn't make the internet, white people did, the government did. Once again, something you created diminished your power. Now you find out that we don't need to go and beg you for a contract just to get our music on the airwaves. Heck, SoundCloud is a big deal. You can put your music out in all kind of ways now. You don't have to beg anybody for anything. You just have to be creative and put out some good music. And a lot of people have home studios now. You can make beats on your iPhone. I mean, people are making beats on their Xboxes. You see what I mean? So the power has been taken away from these big record companies who are offering these, corny deals and then taking advantage of people. and simply because of the internet. Once black people, the most creative people on the planet, got a hold of the internet, we start voicing our struggle over the internet, and boom, you have success. And that's it. That's why you have so many uh, black people who are entrepreneurs and are rich simply because they were able to get on the internet and go ahead and do their thing on the internet, and boom, now their music is blowing up. So I'm saying white people are in trouble. They are in trouble. Uh, the new generation of white people is nowhere near like the old generation of white people. The new generation of white woman is not growing up hating black people. They're not growing up thinking that black people are, this is on a whole. They're not growing up thinking that black people are the scourge of the earth. Black people are terrible. Black people cause a bunch of trouble. Black people, black people, black people. They're not growing up like that. They're growing up listening to our music. They're growing up wanting to date black people. They're growing up wanting to have black babies, looking for black husbands. This is how white women are being raised now. Even white women who are being raised in an area that's predominantly white, and they're really, and it's taboo to want a black man. They're still wanting a black man because our culture has a lot of flavor to it, has a lot of sass to it, and a lot of our culture has a lot of confidence, and there's a lot of variations to the black culture. This is why this is why it's so attractive, because it is a struggle that is still not ended, and people want to be a part of that struggle. You're finding out that when you hear white rappers, you're going, "What do you do? Like, what was your struggle?" Well, you know, you when you look at when you go back to the CDC, you find out that the majority of poor white people in America, or poor people in America, are white. There's 245 million of them. There's only 39 million of us. The majority of white people, or the majority of poor people in America, are white. So they're able to express themselves in their own kind of way, through sometimes through rap music, even though it doesn't come out, you know, it doesn't have that same je ne sais quoi that it does for black people. They're still able to, go ahead and do it. Now, before rap music, poor white people expressed themselves through, like, how did they do it in music? Country music? Not really. Country music wasn't talking about how poor they were. Country music was talking about how much they loved their wife and their dog and their car and their truck, bar fights, and cheating on each other and stuff like that. But you didn't hear them talk about how poor they were. You didn't hear a lot of that. Well, black music talked constantly about the struggle that they had being poor. Now you have white rappers who are talking about how poor they were. The best rapper in music today, right now, well, I wouldn't say he's the best. He's the most lyrical. It's Eminem. He's the most lyrical rapper right now in the game, but I wouldn't say he's the best. So when you listen to Eminem, you listen to Eminem's struggle. You know what I'm saying? So once again, what's wrong with being white? What's wrong with being white is white is no longer white. I say in less than 100 years, the white race is going to be, it's going to be over for them. And also because you have Hispanics. I mean, in 2030, there'll be 60 million of them here. You know, actually, they're supposed to take over the white race in America. White will no longer be white. If your women don't stop messing with black men, which is not going to happen, if they don't cut it out and stop having these mixed babies, then you're going to just have a whole mixed race of Americans. And that's fine with me. But that hurts people who are proud to be white and don't want to see their little girl pop out, mixed babies. That's what's wrong with being white. Soon and very soon, there won't be any more white people. And that bothers them to a great deal. And they've done a lot of things to try to stop this. But a lot of things that they did actually backfired on them. And it's still backfiring on them in a big way. I mean, even with some recent developments, uh, I'm not going to mention because I know YouTube put me on restriction, but with some recent developments, they pretty much are hurting themselves and hurting their chances of having large families. And eventually, I mean, they're struggling to have one or two kids when black people can go out and have five or six kids. So eventually, if those numbers keep going and then, you're losing your daughters, you're looking at 100, 150 years or less, you'll, you know, the white population will be nil in America. It's your boy Tone 202. God loves you, so do I. Take care.